I'm live. It's been a long time. It's been a really long time. It's not been a long time for the Patreon people because I did this maybe a month ago, but it's been a while since we had a live. And I was thinking because I feel like y'all, so much has happened. So much has happened since I made a video. The video that I just put out, I recorded in early mid March. So the rest of March and then all of April and then now a little bit of May as well. And I mean, look at the background, y'all. I'm not in Maryland anymore. So a lot has shifted. Um, yeah, yeah, it's wild. So one thing I was thinking about before starting this live is that I feel like one thing about my live is that my energy is usually just like, like super amped up because I have a lot of joy, I have a lot of light in my heart. But I also feel like, you know, there's an element of being grounded and saying what you're saying from your heart, from your mind, from the spirit versus just unconsciously talking that I also want to really intentionally incorporate into this live. So that is my intention for this live. Hi, Shannon. Who are you? Tell me your entire life story in a text, just real quick, so I know who it is that I'm talking at slash with. And also, out of curiosity, why are you here? Why were you like, I want to hang out with Chimdi this Saturday afternoon? So I have three things that I have put down to talk about healing because the first powerful thing I did that I haven't told y'all about really is go to North Carolina for the first in-person timeless wisdom training week-long retreat with Thomas Hubel. Yes, I'm out here getting selfies with Thomas Hubel. I talked about him so much, so much on this channel. And then look what I manifested and brought into my life. So I was like, oh, I can share about that. Being in Mexico. I just spent a chunk of time in Mexico, and you may be wondering, how does that work, Chimdi? You were staying in some nice spots. Were you the one paying for them villas? The answer is no. And I signed an NDA, so I can't really get into it, but I'm gonna talk about as much as I feel legally safe talking about. And then leaving Maryland. As you see, I got a different background. I got the fuck up out of Maryland. And if you follow me on Instagram, chimdi_ihesye, then you know that I am now in the New York City. I did it. I moved because I'm the kind of person who says what I'm gonna do and then I'm gonna fucking do it. And I love that for me. That's how I inspire y'all is through action. Shannon has left me a little blurb. I'm going to go quickly read it. She says, I've been a subscriber for a minute. Yes, original subscriber. We love it. Thank you. Thank you for your ongoing support. You said, you're off work today. Fuck that job. Jobs are cool. I'm not even like anti-job. I feel like that's becoming my thing because I have that hit video. And I'm not anti-job. Like if you like your job, that's dope. Like work that job. She's off work today. You decided to tune in. Incredible choice. I inspire you. Love that for both of us. And you're trying to get your life figured out, but it is hard at 25. I think 25, you can give yourself grace and not having your life figured out. I feel like if anything, you can spend your entire life trying to figure it out and then you literally never do and then you die. So I think you're okay. I think you should give yourself grace. Celia, hi. I have not talked to you in a minute. By the way, I started listening to your podcast, but it was very intense. And I was like, my spirit can't handle this. But you should know that I'm a spiritual supporter of your podcast. I just can't handle the emotion of it. It's a really dope podcast, actually, about like Black communities, because she's all about like the history of like Black communities and land development and community planning and social justice. Please mention it in the chat so folks can listen. And also, hi Leslie. I love that your name is Leslie is Blessed. Like the power of words, even down to the title of your YouTube name, is incredible, and I love that for me. Leslie's saying Maryland is stressful. You want to leave too? And you're living vicariously through me. Okay, I will keep living. All right. But I will say there is nothing like doing it yourself. So live vicariously through me if you want. But when you're ready, do it yourself because I promise it's so much cooler and like genuinely like shocking that life can be what you want it to be. Because I really do feel like we just aren't used to that. So highly recommend. Unsettled Lives is Celia's podcast. All right. So those are my three things I'm gonna talk about. Let's start with talking about the healing journey that I experienced in North Carolina. It's still integrating. It's still rippling through. I think what really struck me. There were a few things that really struck me when I got there. One was how angry and uncomfortable I was at the entire experience. The fact that me, this gorgeous Black woman, um, was in a room full of a lot of white people being led by a spiritual teacher who was this white European man, and all of the history and structure and systems and everything that had to happen for me to need healing from this white man. Like, I was very angry, which was really a surprising feeling because that's not what I thought. I thought I'd be all excited and scared, of course, but mostly excited to be there. On the very first night, it was like we got there like middle of the day, had a meditation, had like an early session. Um, Very first night, we're just kind of going around doing a triad. So that's when three of us get in a small circle, stare each other directly in the eyes, and then hold space while someone talks uninterruptedly for like 7 to 15 minutes. And during my share, I'm sharing this anger and I'm talking, and I'm like, the idea is that you really feel what you're saying as you say it. And so I was kind of feeling this anger. And then I noticed a sort of a feeling of fear kind of arising in me. And I was like, oh, I'm starting to feel sort of like this fear coming up. It's like this shakiness in my stomach, but I'm also feeling like a resistance to really wanting to address it. Right at that moment, super loud feedback from like the microphone, like a large, like sharp crack, like rips through the room. Instant tears. I just start crying like uncontrollably. Um, which was, at that point I wasn't so used to crying in public with strangers. And so even the way we comfort ourselves when we're emotional tells you and other people about your trauma. So when I was comforting myself, I immediately shut my eyes and I was like, okay, Chimbi, you need to control this yourself. So I literally just like stayed in this quiet moment, crying, but trying to like breathe through it and wrap it up. Instead of course, leaning on the support that I had in that triad space. And so I'd say that the main sort of two major learnings I had or major kind of healing moments. So healing moment is like for me, weeping very heavily and then getting that release that comes and then all that new energy that's back because a part of you that was previously offline that you were like, shut the fuck up, don't talk. No, I don't want to address you. Be quiet, go in the closet. Gets to like re-enter and become a part of who you are again. And the first one was around naming terrible situations. And I think all these things, it's like there's levels to it, right? But I think it really broke open because, especially like with spiritual work and manifestation and powerful thought and all that kind of stuff, I try to be really intentional about what I bring into my mind, what I watch, read, listen to, all of that. And because I want to be intentional about what I think. So I really try not to emphasize and focus on negativity because I don't want to attract negativity. But what that has done for me is that it's kept me from being able to just name, I am unhappy. This is uncomfortable. I do not like this. This is bad. I am stressed. Like all of those real emotions that I'm having, a whole part of me I haven't been letting be present, even here in New York City where I'm so happy to be. The reality is that I'm living in an awesome apartment, y'all. I'm gonna tell you my rent later. I'm so excited about it. But it is still a city, like literally right before we started, I heard like the longest honk. And I was like, I hope that doesn't happen while I'm live. But that's just the reality, right? So there are all these realities of living here. I'm on the fourth floor walk up. So I'm walking up and down them steps every time I want to leave the house. That is what I have to do. And instead of just pretending like, no, it's all great, I love every part of it, I can say, no, there's some parts that aren't so hot and not feel like that can't be included in my experience. So that was a major sort of healing for me. And the second one was around love and support. And that one continues to ripple into my life as I feel into how much support and love I have. There was the second kind of healing moment. It was very powerful. And in that moment, I can't even really get into it because it would take another 45 minutes. But essentially, I kind of went back to like an early childhood traumatic experience and it was like rewritten in real time. And it like broke loose and I like was just crying and crying and crying. And I like had two of the people on the staff there to support me. And so I'm like going into this memory, I'm processing it, I'm crying it. And at one point, one of the women asked me, and do you feel that I am here with you right now? And she's like looking me in my face. And it was shocking because I was like, oh, like I'm not just alone experiencing this thing. I'm talking to a person and they care about me. Like I was like so confused. And there was actually two people there and I was looking at them like, what are you doing here? And they were like, we're here for you. And she was like, take a moment. She was like, you have a lot of support, Shindy. Take a moment to feel how much support you have. And it was just like, oh, like I didn't realize how much of my energy had been spent in holding myself up. And so to realize that I could relax into all this wonderful support was just incredible. And that energy has continued to ripple into my life. When I was in Mexico, it was actually, there were some parts of it that were really challenging. And at one point, I had two friends who were there with me. And literally, we were just in a group hug and I was just crying as they just held me because I didn't realize how much I had missed them, how much I had missed that kind of support. And them being there and then just being like, yeah, we got you, girl, was so affirming and beautiful. And I honestly just wish it for everyone. And I think that's one of the major things trauma does is it keeps you from realizing that you're not alone and you're not isolated. You don't have to figure everything out on your own. You have to carry all the weight on your own. You have people and you have a community and you have love. And so that's kind of like the biggest things that have come from that week in North Carolina. It was also very intense and also had highs and lows, but those two things kind of continue to ripple with me. So I'm gonna see what's going on in the chat real quick. So Shannon is like, yes, fuck that job. I hate it. Okay, girl. Well, you know what you got to do. Okay, you know what you got to do when the time is right. You'll get up out of there, and I promise you, life on the other side is so much better. L Dub is asking, am I moving? What's done is done. I live here now. I live here now. I'm a New York City gal now. Yes, it happened. I said I wanted it, and God was like, bet. That's not even hard. Here you go. And now I live here. And Lucille is congratulating me on the move. Thank you, Lucille. Yeah, I feel very blessed. I'm gonna end with New York because that's the most recent update. I'll then talk now about my Mexico adventures. So I did sign an NDA, so I can't get into it. But suffice to say, given that it's an NDA, it's cool as shit. All right, and so hopefully I'll be able to talk about it at some point, and y'all will be, in fact, knowing because it'll be public knowledge what's going on there. Where do I begin? I think what's great about the Mexico trip is that I made that video about, how I was rewriting my relationship to money and I talked about vision boards. And what I loved about that trip is so many of the things from my vision board happened while I was in Mexico in a way that was comical. I was like, it's literally the exact scene with the coconut is the one I'm experiencing right now. It was really, really incredible. And I think importantly for me, one of my main things, y'all, is to be paid to exist. I just want to live my life and then people give me money. Like, I don't think that's a wild hope or dream. We're making it manifest. And I think what I learned in Mexico is that what that means, though, is that it's not that I am paid to exist as only parts of me or only the parts that I feel comfortable sharing or only the parts that I think people will like. No, all of me. And I feel like that's what YouTube has shown me too, is that it's not just the parts of you that, that are polished and are nice and are great and are healed. No, it's the rough parts. It's the parts where you're still struggling, you're still figuring it out. Those parts too. That's what people are going to be invested in. And that's been a part of my journey, is just becoming more and more comfortable with being that full version of myself. And I think what Mexico showed me is just how much work I still have to do around being my full self all the time in all situations with all people, especially around people who aren't in any kind of spiritual, like intentional spiritual healing kind of practice and energy. I really cultivated my circle and my life so that a lot of my time, a lot of my energy, a lot of my people, a lot of my thoughts are all very much focused on healing, growth, spiritual development, like all of that. And so it's very rare for me to be engaging with people who don't have the same language around energy and intention and about God, about all of these things. So to be in that kind of environment was genuinely a shock to the system. There were other shocks to the system as well, but I think that was one of the major ones. And I think that's why it was so powerful when I got to spend time with my friends because I realized like, oh, I really, really, really miss this. Um, and it also really reaffirmed how difficult it is to not be yourself, you know? Like I had a triad. So it's a part of the 2-year program. Every week I meet with my triad of 2 other people. We practice for like 90 minutes these principles of being grounded and rooted and listening and holding space and being present and all that. And I had one of those meetings pretty early on while I was there. And it really showed me that I needed the space to access those feelings, and I didn't feel safe enough in that space to do that. But once I was in it, I was like, oh, I'm actually really going through it right now. And I needed people who could listen and hear me to actually access that part. And I feel like, hi, Unique. Also, you have not sent me a podcast in a while. Unique is stay sending me like random YouTube videos, random podcasts that stay blessed in my life. I don't know what you're busy with, Unique, but I'm out here thirsting for some quality content. So when you're ready, feel free to send me some more content. Um, but but yeah, and I think one thing that experience taught me and further experiences taught me is that so much of it is just saying out loud the thing that you're scared of, the thing that you don't want to address, the thing that you don't want to face, and just naming it and taking it from being the scary thing in the shadows, just being in the light is so powerful. Like I think it's the equivalent to like being a kid in your room and you're scared of the dark. And if you just turn on the light and see that there's nothing there, you're like, oh. And it's not that the things that you're worried about are nothing, but just bringing light on them takes away so much of that mystique, you know, and so much of that like what really is going on here. You just throw some light on it and you'll see that it's not that big of a deal and chances are it's pretty manageable. So I'm really grateful for that. So my original plan was to go from Mexico back to Maryland and then move to New York, but God had different plans, and I'm very glad for those plans. So I ended up staying in Mexico longer. I was staying in Playa del Carmen, y'all. It's so nice. That was my first time being there. Fully loved it immediately. I went from literally being in a corner of my sister's apartment in Maryland to like being on a rooftop with like 8 friends, like drinking like fancy liquor and like staring out at the city and like feeling the waves of the ocean on my back. Like God is so good. So I was there, and my friend was telling me that it's something about Playa. Like when you're in that energy, just connections happen easier. Like life happens easy. Like it's just a different energy, and I felt it. I felt the Playa energy. So I look forward, hopefully, to going back. Um, but as a result, I ended up flying directly here to my new spot in New York, and I only have I only have about 2 weeks of clothes, and they are mostly summer clothes. So this winter rain that we've been hit with, I'm just like, okay, all right, you go get the same pair of jeans. It's the only pair of jeans that I packed. I also did not bring my SD card reader with me. If you watch the video I made about creativity, then you know that I did not have it, and I still do not have it. And hopefully my sister's gonna come through this afternoon and bring literally all of my stuff. She's truly such a sweetheart. I have like the actual best sister. So hopefully she's gonna bring all of my stuff, including that card reader, and I can get back to making videos with some high quality resolution. Um, but yeah, I just moved directly here, y'all. My New York City rent, I have 2 roomies, $862. Yes. Yes. I deleted the post because I realized it was in alignment. The one that I put here on YouTube, like, hey, y'all, moving to New York, looking for roommates. This is my budget. But I remember folks were like, girl, with that budget, no. And I remember smiling to myself when they said that because I was like, baby, I am not creating the budget. The Lord is providing. Like, this isn't anything can happen. And so the fact that my budget is $860, I'm just like, I'm just pleased. I'm just pleased with myself. But also that process of still having rent, because you know I've been living rent free, is itself like a whole journey. And it's been really great to presence and name and not run away from the fear I have around like, oh, well, is my coaching business going to take off? Am I going to get more sponsorships? Am I going to get more ambassadorships? Speaking of which, I have an ambassadorship, which is dope. I guess I'll make a video about that. I mentioned it in that same creativity video, but I think it'd be worth doing a longer video sort of exploring. Yeah, just all the it's just interesting. And of course, to like get y'all to sign up. It is free. Um, and when you sign up, you support me. So do it. It's called Trove Collective. I'll include a link in the description. It's only for iPhone users. So, and I also am an Android user. So it's very strange that I'm promoting something that I can't actually use on my phone. I can use the web app version of it though. So that is how I've been engaging with the platform. Um, but yeah, so I've had this fear around like, okay, but so you're really a full-time creative based in New York? Like, how does that work? And it's been really cool to practice like the affirmations around my business is growing, my channel is growing. Thank you, also 15,000 of y'all. I think I'm gonna do another video celebration at 20. They'll let me know if you're like, it'd be nice to have a little celebration at 15 because that's a pretty dope milestone. Let me know. But yeah, just rewriting the story in my mind, and what I realized is that I was scared about facing the business part of running the business. Like if it were up to me, we would operate on pure vibes. Like I would just vibe and then clients would come and I wouldn't have to figure out, well, who is your ideal client and how specifically do you help them? And I'm like, don't worry about that. God, just bring the person to me and then I'll just shoot my energy at them and they'll be better and then I'll get money. Like, isn't that how a business works? And so to realize that like, yes, and you need to have all these other structures in place. I was scared to face it because I was believing stories of doubt and fear about my ability to do it, and to actually be able to face that, work through it. I had an energy healing done by one of my friends. That was really cool. And get to the point where I set up my Calendly. And now if you want to do a one-on-one with me and just ask questions for like 30 minutes or an hour, you can do that. And I set it up where you can pay me money to do that. And, an old version of me would have been like, who am I to ask for money for that? No one's going to pay it. What do I have to say that would be worth the money? So to be able to work through all those limiting beliefs, to be like, no, your time is valuable. You are insightful and wise, and you have like incredible things to say. The people who want to get a one-on-one intimate conversation and talk about these things with you and have the money to do it, you're providing a space for them. If folks aren't in that place to do it, you have given them many free videos where they can engage that way. They can engage in the comments, they can engage in a live. And so it really is like so much of the work when it comes to running a business really is internal. And that's what I'm learning in this season. Unique is leaving me. Monique's here. Hi, Monique. Okay, let me hop in here. Oh, hi, Blazer Blast. I know your real name, but I'll just say Blazer Blast. Is saying he feels it. He wants to live by himself so he can fully be myself. But he's not sure if that's him running away or finding a safe place for himself to express himself. And that's real, because I think part of the challenge is even having roommates. I'm like, I don't want to be too loud. I don't want to be like, I love to not wear pants, y'all, in my home, but I'm like, I can't be out here booty cheeks out, run into the refrigerator. Like all these small ways where I'm like, how do I curtail myself so that I'm like palatable to the people around me, and negotiating. Well, there's respectful and there's also being yourself and figuring out where that line is. Unique is saying that something that's come up is when tuning in. Actually, to read this, I can't read it and digest it. That's something that came up when I tuned in was I was thinking the very thing how we haven't had an exchange of high vibrational content lately. I got you. What I've been going through, child. Truly, that says it all. Yes, Playa Carmen is beautiful AF, and she agrees about that energetic environment in Playa. Leslie is imagining having time to disconnect and get back to nature and being herself, which is making her very happy. Her reality is that 9 to 5 commute, busy work day, going home. You got a man, you got a child, and that sounds exhausting, baby. That sounds exhausting. But I mean, the fact that you're naming it, like, I think that's so much of it is just bringing awareness, that conscious awareness, and taking it moment by moment. And then things will start to shift naturally. Unique is like, let's celebrate that 15K. It's true. And honestly, like, Ashley's saying that she loves me. She forgot the D in my name, but that's okay. I love you too, Ashley. Speaking of which, so we've got about 6 minutes left because we're going to do this for 30 minutes. And I'm actually going to hop over to the Patreon. We're going to keep it going over there. So if you are not a Patreon person, patreon.com/Chinzy, we can keep hanging out. But saying that you love me and that I love you reminded me of my next venture, my next creative venture, because truly, this is a media moguldom. So we got to be plugged in to all the forms of media, is a podcast. I'm finally going to start a podcast. So my idea, which is going to become manifest because that is the power of my life, is voice notes from your friend. So I send very long voice notes to my dear friends and to new friends as well. I actually try to start every new relationship. I try to be like, "Do you like voice notes?" And then sometimes they're like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "Yes." And sometimes they're like, "No," and I'm like, "Well, you're gonna like them because that's all I'm sending to you." And then they either engage or they don't, and it's either awesome or it's not. But I feel like there is such an intimacy and there's such a beauty in sending voice notes. And I think, especially with podcasting, there is an intimacy that feels very different than other forms of media because you just got that person right up in your ears. And so I'm really excited to start my podcast, which is going to be like basically not unlike this, me talking uninterruptedly for maybe 20 to 60 minutes. We'll see. We'll see what the people can handle. But not unlike how I end my voice notes with my friends, I want to end them by saying, like, okay, well, thank you so much for listening. It's been so good to talk to you. I look forward to hearing from you soon. I love you. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye. Like, just having it be this very sweet message. And maybe I was thinking too, like, ending it with affirmations, like, you are such a great friend. You're such a good person. Like, you are doing your best. Like, I'm supporting you. I'm rooting for you. Like, you've got this. Just really loving, beautiful energy. And I feel the same way about the podcast that I do about the I Quit video that I originally made, where like it was on my spirit to tell the story. And I knew it was something that I naturally wanted to do anyway. But I also felt like a spiritual kind of like hurry up and make this because people need to hear it. Like people are asking for this and they want that kind of intimacy, love, support regularly, like consistently from someone who like genuinely cares about them, even if it's just through like the internet and the vibration of the internet. And so I feel God being like, girl, like, okay. So timing on that is to be determined, but in reality, nothing is stopping me from starting it. I literally could start it right after this call and like have the first episode uploaded tomorrow. And I know it's nothing but like some small lingering fears that are keeping me from doing it. And the main is just around the unknown, you know. Look at Danelle giving me some money. Okay, Danelle. Okay, we see you. That comes up so bright in the chat. I love it. Also, that is one of my goals. Like I started following this lovely white man named Phil Good he's on YouTube too, and he's also on Instagram. I think Unique actually sent me one of his videos a while ago. Let me know if this is correct. And it didn't resonate with me then, but it resonates with me now, which is very interesting. And I love that one of the things you could do if you're out here doing lives on Instagram and YouTube and shit, people just sending you money. And I'm like, oh, well, I can talk. I could run my mouth and encourage people and channel some shits from God. Like, come on. So this is my first one. Thank you, Danelle. Also, Danelle joined me on the Patreon. Not unlike now, because I was doing a live and she was like, "We having a good time. I'm gonna join her on the Patreon." And she was very clear. She was like, "I specifically am here and I am going to leave." And she kept to her word. She kept to her word. She went from the $10 tier to the $3 tier, and then she did leave my life. And I was like, honestly, I'm not mad because you got to live your truth, okay? When we each live our truth, we all win. So I appreciate you, Danelle. And I love that for us. And I appreciate your $10. Okay, this has been fun. I've enjoyed talking to y'all. Hope the like video isn't too grainy. There hasn't been any wild traffic sounds, so I consider that a win as well. And you know, there is a light that I could have turned on, metaphorically and also literally. Let me see. For the last 1 minute, this is what the light would have looked like. I just feel like the angle is weird. Okay, yeah. So I could have actually been had a light on this entire time. And that is a metaphor. The whole time there is a light waiting to be turned on. And the decision is, do you want to turn it on? Okay. Aesthetically, maybe the darkness seems sexy. It's not sexy. The light is better. Always turn on the light. Okay. Unique said, I spoke and energetically exchanged cash money without the parameters of what it means to run a business in a strategic way. And Leslie's like, how do I find you on Patreon? These are the best questions to ask. I'm going to type it in the chat. Patreon. adobe.com/CHIMBI. Okay, I'm about to hop off of here. Ooh, get a little notification. I'm gonna hop up off of here, switch over to the other one, and we're gonna keep the conversation going there. Okay, thanks for joining me, y'all. Bye. I'm gonna keep doing this until the stream ends. Bye.